Hello, I'm Dr. Steve Karstensen, Editor-in-Chief of Dental Sleep Practice Magazine, a MedMark publication. Welcome to a live presentation and Q&A with Dr. Patrick Porter, developer of BrainTap headset technology, distinctively designed to balance brainwave activity while activating the brain's neuroplasticity. In our webinar today, we'll be exploring how light, sound, and vibration are changing healthcare and helping patients relax before, during, and after treatment. Before we get started, I'd like to invite viewers to use the question box in your control panel to ask any questions. Your questions will be answered through and at the end of the session. I'm pleased to introduce our guest for today, Dr. Patrick Porter. Dr. Porter is the founder and CEO of BrainTap Technologies. For the past 30 years, Dr. Porter has been on the cutting edge of brainwave entrainment technology, and from that has produced his latest device, the BrainTap headset, a technology used for activating the brain's peak potential. The headset features harmonized tones which are embedded into more than 700 audio-recorded motivational programs and create visualization processes produced by Dr. Porter himself. These tones are synchronized with gentle light pulses that relax, reboot, and strengthen busy brains. More than 1,500 health clinics worldwide use BrainTap to address the stress component of health and wellness. Dr. Porter has been featured in the Wall Street Journal, People, Entrepreneur, and Inc. magazines, and Dental Sleep Practice, and on ABC, NBC, CBS, and the Discovery Channel. He's head of mind-based studies at Quantum University and is a licensed trainer of NLP. He's the author of 6 books, including his popular Thrive in Overdrive, How to Navigate Your Overloaded Lifestyle. Dr. Porter, we turn the webinar over to you to learn more about this topic for today.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Steve. I'll do my best here to explain and explore what we're going to do here, so talk to you in a moment. Okay, I want to welcome you all to the webinar. We're going to talk about how light, sound, and vibration is changing healthcare. And some of you might have heard, because lasers are being used in all aspects of health right now, and most of you are using some form of laser in your practices right now. But we're going to talk about low-level light therapy and how that affects the brain, the nervous system, and most importantly, helps us to get rid of stress. As we look at where we're going in healthcare, when I was searching out, working with the Dental Sleep Practice magazine, I started to research what do dentists right now in dental practices do with stress, and I found that there's quite a few of you out there that actually have made the link between stress and its effect on oral health. So what happens when you're stressed out? Of course, you're going to have the grinding, the bruxism that happens. There's going to be a higher risk for gum disease. There's going to be joint muscle pain. There's going to be cold sores, canker sores. There's going to be inflammation function. The immune system isn't going to work as well. Stomach cramps, nausea. All of these things are triggered by stress. And if you compound that with, unfortunately, when people think about going to the dentist, they don't get all excited and giddy like they're going to see Santa Claus. They know that they're going there because they have to maintain good oral health, but they would prefer not to. They would prefer to just take a pill and never have to see a dentist, because in most cases, they haven't taken care of themselves, so now they have to get some kind of treatment done. But on the flip side of that too, when we talk about dentistry in general, if you do the research, which most of you watching probably already know this, but dentistry is a pretty high stress career. There's high rates of depression, anxiety, and addiction. And what are you doing for yourself? Because most people are working on other people, and dentistry, unfortunately, is a very stressful job. And the #1 killer of dentists is stress-related cardiovascular disease. So when we're talking today, even though we're going to be talking about light, sound, vibration, and the BrainTap technology for your patients, really, I'm going to seriously ask you to think about this for yourself. And we've done a lot over the years. I've been in this business now for 30 years. I'm the inventor of the very first portable light and sound machine that we're going to talk a little bit about, the advanced one that we have now. But in that time period, we have installed the BrainTap into many different businesses. And I would say in our 1,600 clinics now that we have using BrainTap, the biggest benefit that they see is with their own staff. Because now they don't just take coffee breaks, they take wellness breaks using the BrainTap technology. So the other side effect, obviously, in working in a dental office is there's a lot of psychological stress when you're working with people who are apprehensive, fearful patients that are, these devastate the dental practitioner. We have a whole series. So I'm not going to go into the whole series of what we have because we're going to give you each that are on this webinar a chance to listen to these for yourself afterwards. You're going to be able to have a link where you can learn about these different programs and protocols that we have for the dental office. But just know that we have them for you personally as a practitioner, as well as how you can use them with your patient base and have a little residual income from that as well. So first of all, let's talk a little bit about stress. We know for a fact that all stress is brain stress. Whatever is happening to you is happening to you if you consider it to be negative stress or positive stress. Getting married can be very stressful. In fact, one of the questions I usually ask my clients that I see working with them with psychological issues is I would say, tell me about your favorite time in your life, your happiest time. Some people will tell me it's the day they got married. Other people will tell me it's the day they got divorced. So it really depends on your perception of reality, not reality itself. And if something's stressful for you, it's because your brain processes that stress. So when we talk about what does stress do to you personally and to your patients when they're coming in, stress is affecting something called telomeres. This is why when you watch whoever is the president of the United States, when you watch them in 4 years, the way they age over a 4-year time period, I don't know anybody who'd want that job. No matter what president you look at, when you look at what they look like when they first started office, what they look like when they leave office, they have aged tremendously because that job is very stressful. No matter what you do, you're probably going to make somebody mad. So when you think about the stress that you're under as a professional in the dental field, that stress is affecting you in some way. It's prematurely aging you if you're not able to handle it, or like we said in the last slide, if you're using other substances to deal with your stress, then it could have another negative side effect like alcohol or drugs and things of that nature. So these telomeres actually will trigger the responses that we just talked about. So think of the telomeres like a fuse, that when that telomere is gone, the life of that cell is gone. And when the telomere is gone in the body, your life is gone. It's a way that they measure how much life you have. So the more stress you have, the quicker the fuse goes. So we want to give you some techniques and some processes to get rid of that. So by the time we're done with this webinar tonight, you're going to get some free tips, some tricks that you can start to use. You can download them right to your mobile phone. And if you choose, you can start using them tonight. So one of my favorite books that talks about this that I recommend to almost all my audiences that I speak with around the world is Why Zebras Don't Get Ulcers. Now, if you go online to YouTube and you type in Why Zebras Don't Get Ulcers, you're going to see some pretty unique videos that the author has put together. And the whole point here is if you were a zebra and you were in the Serengeti and you were being chased by a lion, obviously you'd be fearful of your life. But lions don't have a very good track record to catching zebras, thank God. They only have to catch the slowest zebra. So you don't have to be the fastest zebra. You just have to be the second slowest. So, but when that lion stops, maybe it gets tired, goes back in the shade and rests, the zebra just puts its head down, starts eating. It forgets all about the lion chasing it. So the point here is people are different, of course. When somebody thinks about going into the dental office and they're stressed out about it, that stress is going to precipitate and exacerbate negative neural hormones that cause the body to respond differently. You're going to have to use more Novocaine. You're going to have to use more painkiller, more gas, whatever you're using to calm them and give them a sedative, because their own neurochemistry. The brain is the most powerful pharmacy on earth. So when somebody's thinking a certain thought, you can believe this: thoughts are ancestors to action, but also thoughts trigger emotional responses, and emotions trigger neurohormonal responses in the body. They can be good and they can be bad. If they're negative, if they're thinking about their dental procedure in a very negative way, they will have negative situations. So situations themselves don't cause stress. There are some people that come into your office, they're relaxed and comfortable. In fact, my dentist, which I actually just saw today, which was, he said he was going to be on this webinar today, and I was telling him about it. We feel like, my wife and I, we go in and we literally almost fall asleep in the dental chair because we've conditioned ourselves to be relaxed in the dental chair, where most people don't do that. They've never conditioned themselves. They never thought about it. In fact, my wife's father told her that Novocaine doesn't do anything for you anyway, so just relax and let it go with the flow. And so they learned to do dentistry without any Novocaine. Now, on the other hand, my dad taught me how to create analgesia, which can numb the body. I actually had painless surgery because the body is so powerful. Pain is an option. Pain doesn't have to happen in the body. Pain only happens in a brainwave state known as beta. And I'm going to get into brainwaves in just a little bit and why light, sound, and vibration triggers the appropriate brainwaves that bring about the balance and harmony we need to get the right results in our life. Now, our reactions to situations cause the stress, not the stress itself. So if you learn to change your reaction, you're going to learn to change your stress. And that's where brain tapping comes in and what we do when we're teaching people through light, sound, and vibration. So just know that you're going to get a chance to try this for yourself. You're not going to get the light part because we don't have a way to download that. But if you're near one of our offices, we can definitely set you up to go in, try it out for yourself. And we have offices in every major city in the United States and Canada. So we can probably accommodate most of you on this call tonight. Now, when you think about meditation and relaxation techniques, in the old days, this is what you'd have to do. You'd have to go learn how to do some kind of yoga, meditation, relaxation techniques, which they work, they're great, but it takes years to master this kind of technology. And most of the time, believe it or not, people can do this for years, 10, 20 years, and do it all wrong because they don't know how to do it, because they don't have the right instructor or teacher. So what we've done back in the 80s, actually, in 1986, we came up with the very first portable light and sound machine. Now, it didn't look anything like what we have now, because what I'm showing you here in the picture is a sound vibration bed where people can lay down and they can get vibrational frequencies, healing frequencies through their body. They can be using light to retrain their brain, get rid of traumatic brain injuries. They can recreate the balance that has to happen between the brain-gut axis, and they can use the BrainTap technology to train their brain to go into an optimum state of brainwave function, which helps to reboot and recharge overworked and tired brains, which unfortunately most people have because we live in a high-stressed, high-octane life that doesn't give us any time off. It's always time on. So this is a way to reboot the brain in as little as 10 minutes. We have 10 minutes to 20-minute sessions. We have some that are a little bit longer, but those are the average of our 700 sessions. Now, when you think of meditation like BrainTap, what science is showing us now that it actually affects generations, which if you're a family member and you know families and they go, anxiety runs in the family or stress runs in the family, just like alcoholism runs in the family, these are genes that are turned on and off through stress responses. So Scientific America and mindfulness magazines actually are proving that meditation rewires the brain. It actually changes your gene expression. So what does that mean? That means that you are not subject to the history of your parents. You actually have control over your genes and what they can do. Research actually shows today that you have control over 2,300 gene expressions when you start to meditate, like the BrainTap, getting into those states of deep relaxation where you can turn the gene expression on and off. You can literally inoculate yourself against stress because you've retrained the brain to take the information that you're receiving through the 5 senses, calm it down, and use your body the way it was intended. Your brain was designed to think, your body was designed to act. Unfortunately, people are using their thinking, their body's doing the thinking, so they get upset stomachs, anxiety, fear, and stress because they're internalizing all of that because they don't know how to manage all of that information that's coming at them. Now, epigenetics means that only 20% of your gene expression is from your family history. So regardless of what mom and dad did, grandma and grandpa, all the way back in time to the very first one of you, well, in my case, the Porters, I am only subject to what 20% of what they did. 80% is designed by the thoughts that I think, the activities I take part in, the foods I consume, the books I read, the seminars I'm part of. All of that plays on because the body literally is turning these gene expressions on and off all the time. You are in a state of flux, a state of change. And I'm going to explain, and hopefully you start to understand that you are not a physical being. Science has proven that you are an energy being. That's why we are in an energy economy. When you get home and you've stressed out all day, and you get home and you get on the couch and you just want to veg out because you don't have any energy left, that's because you haven't provided your body with the energy to reboot it. Most of the energy that you receive happens only in the deepest levels of sleep. So especially for those of you out there that are into sleep medicine, which hopefully all of you will be after you listen to this webinar, you're going to be helping people to re-energize their body because you're getting them into the deeper levels of sleep, whether that's through dental appliances, through the BrainTap technology, or whatever you're going to use, because sleep is so important to turning these genes on and off, the health genes, to turn them on and off. We want to turn them on, of course, they call that the parasympathetic system, and we want to turn off the sympathetic overload. Most people are living their life in this sympathetic overload and not working. So how do we do that? We do that through something called auriculotherapy. And when you're looking here, this is one of our headsets. And the BrainTap headset has lights in the ears. So I want to spend a little bit of time talking about that so you'll understand how and why we put lights in the ears and how that affects you or your patient when you're using the BrainTap technology. First of all, Dr. Nogier discovered modern auriculotherapy. This is based on a 10,000-year-old history of this auriculotherapy that happened in China. You know, they've known that there are certain meridian lines in the ears, in the hands, and in the feet. They have something called iridology. All of these different studies show that our body is literally a hologram, which means it keeps reproducing itself. There are places in the ears that relate to, and I'm going to show you those in just a moment, that relate to different parts of the body. What Dr. Nogier found out was that when you use the 7 Nogier frequencies, which means there's different frequencies our body operates on. And unfortunately, when we walk into our homes and we have lights in electrical activity and electronic smog, they call it, that disrupts these frequencies of our body. That's why 30% of the people out there have a very bad experience when they run up against this electronic smog, like when they're, let's say, Wi-Fi or cell towers or electrical wiring. Their body, what's happening is the frequencies of our body are being disrupted or interrupted by these outside frequencies. Now, give us time, because our bodies can adapt, improvise, and improve upon its frequency response to its environment. But think about it. In the last 50 years, we have been bombarded with new frequencies that our grandparents and our great-grandparents never even thought about experiencing. The only frequencies they get to experience was the electrical frequency from the sun or from trees or from clouds or from wind. Nature itself has electrical frequencies all the time. Think about lightning and how it strikes the earth. All of these things work with frequency response. So our body is designed with these 7 different frequencies. What we do is we have tuned in our device to the relaxing frequencies using light. So we're using light and sound. So if you're just using your own earphones, you're going to get the light frequency, and I'm going to explain what that is in just a moment. But the sound frequency comes in through the earphones, but now we've added the light frequency as well. It moves through the meridian lines. We're going to bring light into the body. We are photaic beings. The most underprescribed nutrient on earth today is light. Because we live in houses, we drive in cars, we don't get outside enough. That's why we have something called seasonal affective disorder, where our body isn't getting enough light to produce the hormone, which we call vitamin D, but it's really a hormone D, which triggers a lot of different sensations and feelings in our body. So we want the light to go into our body. So when our mitochondria, the cells of our body, aren't operating correctly because of stress, low-level chronic stress that we're under, our BrainTap feeds the body light because it's absorbed into the bloodstream. The blood circulates through the ears every 3 to 5 minutes, depending upon your heartbeat. It carries with it the photons from the light. Those photons, charged with the frequency of health and vitality, actually the Nogier frequency that these trigger points are a part of, it's going to give a strong parasympathetic response, and it's going to trigger this light to work within the body to bring balance back to the body. So if one of the mitochondria isn't working, it's going to absorb the photon. So the mitochondria that's not working is like a negative charge. The photon is a positive. It's going to exchange protons. It's going to kickstart the Krebs cycle of that cell. It's going to turn it back on, and it's going to start to operate the way it was intended. Light therapy is going to, if you don't know about it now, you're going to start hearing more and more about it, because light therapy is now in its age, because we can do so much with light to accelerate healing, to bring about vitality. But for the BrainTap, what we want to do more than anything else is kickstart the brain, because so many people are under so much stress, their brain is tired. It's not functioning at its highest potential. And the biggest fear in America right now is not the fear of public speaking. The biggest fear is to arrive at your retirement age without your memories. So the fear or loss of memory is the biggest fear out there right now. And that's because people aren't using their brain. Their brain is shutting down because of the stress, the low-level chronic stress that it's under. So we have a solution for that. One of the best solutions, of course, is to meditate, use light, sound, and vibration by using the BrainTap machine. That's why we created it. Now, what is light and ATP doing? Well, there's three functions for light in the body. First of all, you need this light for energy. So think of the light is triggering something called ATP. Excuse me. This ATP is like currency for the body. Nothing transacts in the body without ATP. You can be taking the best nutrients. You can be eating the best foods. But if those cells are not operating at the peak potential because ATP is not being released, it can transact the information. So think of it like this. There's a lock and there's a key. So the lock and key system works with light, which triggers the body's currency, which is ATP. Once those are triggered, your body now has energy to function. You have more energy. People think they get energy from eating, but the reality is, even though you might have felt tired, you ate something, you felt energized, that was only a false sense of energy, because it takes anywhere between 2 to 3 hours to get any metabolized energy out of the food you're eating. So it's more a psychological energy boost, not a reality energy boost. But what light does, it gets the body working efficiently and correctly. So this energy works to regenerate the body. The cells of your body, as you've been listening to me over the last few minutes, has been changing at a rate of 50 million cells per second. Each second of every minute, of every hour, of every day, your body continuously changes. You can't stop that process. Now, if your body doesn't have the right materials to rebuild itself, it's going to begin to rob Peter to pay Paul. It's going to rebuild the most important organs first, and then some of the lesser organs are going to pay the price because you haven't provided it the nutrients that it needed. Light is one of those nutrients. Because we can't get it from the sun anymore, we have to give it to the body through something called low-level light therapy. Now, our light therapy uses frequencies of 533, which is our blue light, which is a healthy blue light. The negative blue light that you hear about is the 470 to 480 frequency. We don't use those lights. We use the healing light, which triggers vitamin D production. So it rebuilds the body, replenishes the body, and rejuvenates it. And this helps when the energy of the body, it helps to repair the body. Without this light and ATP transaction, you can't heal the body, which means regardless of what you eat, of what you drink, regardless of what you think, your body just simply doesn't have what it needs to build health. Now, you can get this by eating healthy foods. Fresh, live, vibrant foods that food has light available to it because the food actually encapsulates light. That's what plants are and vegetables. Those are foods that are basically light crystallized in form so that we get energy from it. That's why those are high energy foods. If you eat dead and devitalized foods, those foods are going to actually take more ATP to transact that food to transfer it into energy. It's like putting a smoldering log on a fire instead of putting kindling wood. So think of light as something that can boost the metabolic rate of the body, get the brain to function the way it was supposed to, and get the body back to its regulatory system. And most people will say when they do a brain tapping session in the middle of the day, it's a reboot. It's like they get a fresh new morning, but it's the afternoon now. That's because we've rebooted the brain. 10 minutes of brain tapping is equivalent to 2 to 3 hours of physical sleep because the brain moves through the different brainwave frequencies, which we're going to go over in just a moment. Now, when you think about energy, and you are energy, and we spend a lot of time with Dr. Oz and his nonprofit working with things, but I love Dr. Oz and what he said here. He said the next frontier is energy medicine. And he knows that because we're all going one direction. We're all getting better looking and more intelligent with age, and we want to stay youthful. We're the first group. If you're with me, I mean, most of you might be younger than I am, but if you're in the age that's over 35, you realize that you're not immortal anymore, that you've got to do something to take care of your body. Energy medicine, we are energy. The cells of your body are energy. The molecules of your body are energy. Everything is energy. So when we take food in, when we think our thoughts, all of these things are energy. So we need to start producing our own natural remedies through our thoughts, our energy, our food, and what we do. So this is one of the big things that's happening out there in the world. So what is auricular therapy? First of all, like I said, Dr. Paul Nogier is the one who's credited for bringing it to being. But when you think about the ear, there's different places and meridian points in the ears. Now you can use ultrasound to trigger it. You can use lasers to trigger it. Some of you might have lasers. You can use finger pressure. If you know Chinese medicine, you can use microcurrent. You can use low level or LED lights, the low level light therapy like we do. Now, the nice thing about low level light therapy is it's going to seek the path of least resistance. And it looks for these meridian points, and then it moves through and flows down through those meridians and feeds the light to parts of the body that need it, including the brain. And the reason we have lights with the eyes closed, it moves through the eyelids and the ears, is those are the quickest pathways into the brain, because the brain needs light. And so when we bring that light into the brain, and that's what it needs to really begin to sleep. So when people like Lisa Moeller, who are responsible for Dental Sleep Magazine, started using BrainTap, and why they started sleeping better was that we started training their brain to move back into its natural state of being. Before we had all the lights and all the technology we have today, the average person slept over 12 hours a day. I don't know about you, but I don't get 12 hours anymore. And most people now today sleep less than 6 hours every night. So that means we've cut our sleep in half. We've increased our workload, but we haven't done anything to offset that. So technology has been created to help rebalance that system and bring people back. Now, Dr. Emoto, if you haven't read his book called The Secret Life of Water, unfortunately he passed away, but he was one of our professors at Quantum University. And he's the one who did the experiments that shows that our body is made up of 80+% water, and that we can change the crystalline structure of our body through the thoughts that we're thinking. Science has now proven that we are frequency and vibration. Our DNA is literally the antenna that turns off and on these expressions based on our emotional state, because energy is motion, emotion. When we get our emotions in balance, our health becomes balanced. But I recommend that you read The Secret Life of Waters, to understand that when you think a thought, you are literally changing the makeup of your body, the crystalline structure of your body, which is the structure of thought and creates the attitudes and beliefs that you carry around with you on a day-to-day basis. Now, back in March 2016, Scientific American on page 45 had a very important finding. Every one of you that are sleep doctors out there should have this magazine in your lobby, because it's so important what they found. What they found out was that sleeping, of course we all know this, but sleeping is the lasting key to health. But what they found out was it's that way because we have an internal plumbing system. That means that if you don't get the deep level sleep that you need to rest, relax, reboot, and recharge, then your brain never detoxes. It builds this toxin out. Now that toxins will leach out, but you'll have brain fog, cloudy thinking, you'll be stressed out, you won't have energy, because the brain is the most important organ that you have. But if you can reach deep level sleep, level 4 sleep, then your brain does something. And most of you listening have had this experience. You woke up at night and you had sleep paralysis, meaning that you knew you were sleeping, you couldn't move your body, but maybe you even got a little frightened. Something about it. I woke up and I couldn't move. I had paralysis. What literally happened was you woke up in the middle of a cleaning cycle for your brain. Now the reality is, if you were healthy, this would happen 5 to 6 times every night. And when it happens, you're experiencing something called a delta burst. That means that the brain is at the deepest level it can go, and it locks you out of the nervous system so that it can dump the toxins. It's almost like flushing a toilet. And if it can do this 4 or 5 times or 6 times at night, then you wake up rested, relaxed, recharged, revitalized, and renewed. But if you don't reach deep level 4 sleep, you never clean up. This ritual never happens. That's why people with sleep apnea and all these different sleeping disorders, why their health isn't what it used to be. It's because they're not cleaning up their brain. So the key, what you're doing when you're helping your patients to sleep better, you're helping them to get back on schedule with this cleanup ritual so that their brain and body can return back to health and vitality. Now, what are the brainwaves we're talking about? There's 4 primary brainwaves I want to inform you about right now. Where we're talking is beta right now. Beta is the alert state where stress happens and anxiety as well. I usually call this the reactionary mind. So when you're in beta consciousness, you don't usually act very intuitive. You just react. And you have to do that when you're driving your car, doing your taxes, and things of that. Think of left brain activities. That's the beta brain. But if you stay too much in beta, you don't get to relax. So when you do something you love, that's usually when you're in alpha. It's a light state of relaxation. It's daydreaming. It's when you're doing something creative, artistic. We call this the intuitive mind. So if you are able to relax, to tune out beta and get into alpha, then your body starts to rejuvenate, reboot it, as it were. Now, theta is a brainwave state that's right on the threshold of sleep. It's deep relaxation and rejuvenation. The nice thing about the BrainTap technology is that we can get you to theta in as little as 1 session. In fact, in 7 minutes, you can reach theta with our technology, and 90% of the people that experience our technology, even for the very first time, will go through a deep theta training. Now, why is this important? Only 10% of people can do that without our equipment. So if you're doing a meditation on your own, you think, wow, I go to this deep level. The reality is if we hooked you up to our EEG devices like our NeuroInfinity or our Epoch Plus or any of those other technologies that measure brainwaves, I have never seen anyone who could go to theta for the length of time that we can train people to go to with BrainTap in as little as 1 to 3 sessions. Now, there are people that can go there, but usually they go there, they stay there for a little bit, and then they fall asleep or they wake back up. They're not able to stay there because the brain needs the training of light, sound, and vibration to stay in theta. Now, delta is deep sleep. That's not where you go to relax and rejuvenate, but we need to know that because if you don't reach that deep level, that lucid dreaming state, that deep rejuvenating state, you don't rebuild your body. So all of these brainwaves are important. None is any better than the other, but when you're awake, you should have about 40% beta. When you're asleep, you should have about 70 to 80% delta. So sleeping is delta, wake is beta, and there's a little bit in between. Like alpha is usually about 30% when you're awake and about 10% theta. There's also a brainwave called gamma that we're going to talk about in a little bit, but these are the 4 primary brainwaves. Now, why are they important and why is the BrainTap so important? Because of something called neurotransmitters. Beta waves produce dopamine. So your frontal lobe, when you're listening to a brain tapping session, the light is going in through closed eyelids. It's actually keeping the frontal lobe active. What happens during typical meditation is the frontal lobe shuts down because the brain uses 20% of the energy of the body. And if it gets a chance to shut down and to run on idle, it's kind of like your computer. If you're not using the keyboard and the mouse, it can go to sleep on you. The brain is going to do the same thing. But what the BrainTap does, the brain tapping system, is it keeps this frontal lobe active so that you can balance out the brain and produce the dopamine that you need to get the neurotransmitters. Now, the dopamine is not produced in the brain. This is a misconception most people have about the brain. The brain instructs the gut. Your gut makes 90% plus of all the neurotransmitters. So if your brain and gut are not balanced or in harmony, you're not making those neurotransmitters either. When you have alpha waves going, you produce acetylcholine. So in the same way, if you have little or no alpha activity, you're not producing acetylcholine, which is going to help you to be creative, connect the dots, all of the things that you need this neurotransmitter for. The nice thing about the brain tapping system is you're going to spend a little bit of time in each one of these different brainwave states to train the brain to balance it out. Theta waves produce GABA. So as you go through a brain tapping session, you're literally triggering the brain's natural mechanism to produce your own neurochemicals. Your brain, again, is the most powerful pharmacy on earth. Over 30,000 different neurochemicals can be released or created, triggered by your brain, because your brain knows how to create them. So these delta waves produce serotonin. So now, none of these neurotransmitters are any more important than the others. We need them all when we need them throughout the day. So it's not like we can take a pill and store serotonin, like what is the popular method that's out there today. That's like putting milk in your refrigerator and thinking if you keep the milk in the refrigerator for the next 2 years, it's going to be good. No, our body is very cyclic. It wants the serotonin for today, not the one from yesterday. So the body and mind need this cyclic activity of cycling through. When you're in bed at night and you're sleeping, you go through each of these brainwave states at least 3 times in a healthy sleep cycle. If you're not reaching deep levels of sleep and natural sleep cycles, and you miss any of these different brainwaves during sleep, which happens if you're snoring, usually when you're snoring, you never reach theta, so you're not producing GABA. When you wake up, you can't produce serotonin because the delta is struggling. So when you sleep correctly and you go through 3 cycles of sleep, you're triggering these different neurotransmitter activities. Now, if you then use the brain tapping program in the daytime, or meditate, or do Tai Chi, or yoga, or dance, something that's going to create this harmony in the brain and body, then the brain can create the neurotransmitters that you need and bring about health in the body. Now, what is the science of brain tapping? When we think about brain tapping, there's some things. One is the strategic mind messaging, which means we do have visualizations. We have binaural beats in there, which means we're going to balance the brain through a certain tonal frequency that when we put in, let's say we want to get alpha, which is 10 hertz frequency, we're going to put a 210 hertz frequency in one ear and a 200 hertz frequency in the other. It's going to create the balanced brainwave of 10 hertz frequency. Now, because not everybody hears perfectly, we're going to layer that with isochronic tones. So think of this as a symphony for the brain. We're going to use light therapy at these different frequencies to feed the brain and body to manage the way the brain moves in and out of these different states of relaxation. And we wrap this all around auriculotherapy as well as relaxation. When all of these things are happening at one time, we get what's called the relaxation response. Most people know about the fight or flight response, but there's a higher level response that our brain is trained to create, which is called the relaxation response. Professional athletes go through it all the time. Men in war that are able to, under pressure, perform at higher levels. They're able to move into these different states of mind because they move beyond fight or flight and they move into this relaxation response. Everyone can be trained to do this. It's just a matter of learning to train your brain to do that. This is what the BrainTap does. Now we have this research project that actually is just being published as we speak now. It's a project we did with MIT, or we took it to MIT to prove out their concept. They said that they could create about 6% gamma with blue light technology, and they were exposing people to 40 hertz frequency. So we showed them that we could create 23% gamma in a 20-minute session by taking people through the different brainwave frequencies and do it in a gentle and really healing way to the body. We found out that when we tested 50 of our patients here in New Bern, North Carolina, that we had a 27.5% improvement in just one session when we had people go pre and post to find out what was happening with their body. So we have a lot of science. I could spend a whole hour or more going over the science that's going on right now that's proving out the brain tapping system. But right now is a very incredible time, really, to be a part of light, sound, and vibration. So what is brain tapping? First of all, as you can see the picture here, people are relaxing back in zero gravity chairs and relaxing. They could be doing this in the dental chair if they're stressed out anxious, they have fear, frustration about dentistry. We have 7 sessions that are all about teaching people to relax and let the dental procedure happen. Once they learn to do that, then they are more receptive to getting the results that they need within the dental chair, and everything you do is going to heal up much faster. But brain tapping is about training the brain. Now we have over 700 different sessions, so you could actually resell this to patients for home use as well. There's a whole model around that. They could work on their own weight loss, stress reduction. Now, the key thing that we're doing here is that we know that in working with people that have problems sleeping is we need to get them to sleep quickly and easily. And what we found is this is one way to train the brain to move through the different brainwave cycles, so then it retrains itself to go back to its natural sleeping rhythm. Most people, in fact, over 90% of the people that we test, even at trade shows, we did some surveys at trade shows, and over 90% of the people sleep better even in hotel rooms because their brain is being exposed to these different brainwave frequencies. Now, how to use it in your practice? Most of our clinics will actually set up a room and do brain tapping in their clinic, but in a dental office, you could use it pre or post procedure. You could set up, we have some dental spas that are using it and having it where people come in and they actually do other natural services with it. When we go each year to the Naturopathic Medical Association, we've met dentists there that do the natural dentistry, and they'll use the brain tapping program to help them, because we have a pain-free program where you can teach people how to do things without anesthetic. They can produce their own numbness and their own anesthetization so they can go through dental procedures. You can charge for this in your clinic. There are people that charge. We have one doctor in St. Louis right now that had opened up a stress recovery treatment center in St. Louis. He has 2,000 members paying him $147 every month. Now, if you do the math on that, he made over $2 million in his stress recovery treatment center because he was referring his own patients to his stress recovery treatment center, which was next door to his chiropractic office. So dentistry can do the same thing, because you're seeing, as you know, most dentists are being seen more than their primary care physician. So you could be referring them to go through your own stress recovery treatment program. Now, how can you monetize it? Some people will charge for it, other people won't. I just returned from Stockholm in Sweden, and there's a group of clinics there called Eureka. In these Eureka clinics, every person that joins their wellness program or protocol comes in and does brain tapping programs 3 times a week, whether they're doing physical therapy or they're getting recovery. They have a way to do that. We also have programs to help people pre and post surgery. Most people will charge for it. Some people will charge $20, $1 a minute, just like you would for a massage. Other people will charge for a program, which means they will actually charge $200 for 10 sessions or in that. If you're interested in that, then we're going to give you some information and you can call and we can talk about your situation personally and help you to run a brain tapping program out of your clinic or your dental office so that you understand how to best monetize it in your market. Everyone is a little bit different, but most people will find a way to monetize it, even if it's just to let people use it in their clinic or in their dental office, and then they sell it for home use because we have a reseller program that you can be a part of. Now, when we talk about what does the BrainTap do, this is a piece of technology called digital pulse analysis, and we can actually measure the body's regulatory systems. This is measuring the hormonal system. And you can see this person started out at 51% on the left side and then went to 67% after one session. But the big key is down below is their metabolic rate. They went from 140 metabolic units to 246 metabolic units. That means that we turned on their fat burning machine. Now, how do we know that? We know that because we were featured in People magazine. Back in 2006, People magazine did a whole feature about my franchise company. And they want to know, how could we help people lose weight, because we didn't have a weight loss program really. All they did was listen to the program and get their body tuned up. Well, this is something you could add to your dental practice very easily because we have over 54 sessions just for weight loss alone. And 93% of people are unhappy with their weight. And that's only one of the key things that you could work with. You could work with stress. You could help people stop smoking. Most of your patients probably don't know if they're still smoking that cigarettes are 8 to 18% sugar. That's why their teeth are all rotting out of their head, because they're breathing in sugar through smoke. So the tooth decay is terrible. But you can help them to stop smoking with the BrainTap program. We have a very successful 12-week stop smoking program that we give to the clinics to use, or to the dental offices, so you can help your patients stop smoking and bring back their oral care that they need. Now, when we talk about the different sessions that we have 43 different categories. So if you follow through with the next step that I'm going to give you, you can download them, play with them, listen to them over the next 15 days, and find out if this is something that you want to do in your practice. We have sessions for adults, such as stress relief, blissful sleep, weight loss, pain relief, fitness and sports. We had several of our Olympians using the BrainTap program. We have programs for kids. We have over 43 sessions just for kids alone. So children respond very well to this, whether they have autism or they just simply want to build their self-reliance, their sportsmanship, or values. Now, I'm just about ready to wrap up here my part of it, but I want to make sure that you all understand we have a free gift for you, a free ebook. If you go to braintaptech.com/thrive, you can download a free copy of my book. And when you do that too, you'll get a link so you can have 15 days free on our BrainTap app. So you can learn a little bit more about what I'm talking about. We can educate you. And Lynn Cretisi, who is our representative in the dental market, that's his email there, lynn@braintaptech.com. You can set up a time to speak with Lynn, and he can go over some of the different programs or protocols that would help you to really accelerate your results in the brain tapping program. So while we wrap up this portion of it, I'm going to bring Dr. Steve back on so that if there's any questions or any concerns, we can go over them at that time.
Well, Patrick, hello. That was pretty great. Yeah. You can leave that last slide up if you want to, and that way people can make sure they get that email address and that link.
Okay.
Yeah. But I have a question. You know, thinking back, you've been doing this for 30 years. You know, tell us a little bit about origin stories. How did this come to you to do this? I heard you talk about the researcher, but what made you connect that with something you could do for modern medicine and dentistry like this?
Well, back in the 80s, the EEPROM chip first came out. That's a chip that allowed us to have a microprocessor. So we were doing a lot with sound at that time, and the group that I was working with called Light and Sound Research. So we had one pain-free anesthesia. There are a certain group of population that can't do anesthetics at all. So we were working with them for pain-free surgeries and to help them. And we were biofeedback technicians. There was no such thing back then as neurofeedback. So we put those two together, and then from that point, we had a device called the SILS, Sensory Input Learning System, but we've had about 13 different generations leading up to now. But we first started with sound because that's all we had. And when we used to use a metronome and different things like that, because just like people that know how to play the piano, they actually learned brain synchronization to learn to play the piano, because the metronome would be a beat frequency that would synchronize the brain, and they would learn to play the piano. That's why it made it easier. So that was kind of the early science, and now, of course, we've just accelerated way past that. There's universities now using neurostimulation to do the same thing we're doing.
Okay. Well, so talk a little bit more about the research a little bit there. And is there a dental dental research going on specific for this, or at one of the research institutes we have, or what's going on with that?
No, I'd love to do that. We have some sleep programs going on right now.
Oh, okay.
We actually have a 100-bed hospital in India right now that's doing a sleep program for us. It seems a little bizarre that when I go to India, they do a lot more corporately. Like, we're in a few of their government buildings in Bangalore. They have 2 different research projects going on with government workers using the BrainTap and reducing stress. We have the sleep study going on at Hyderabad Hospital. And then we have a university there that's doing a comparative study between BrainTap and 3 other different meditation models. There's what they call the Jyoti meditation. There's different yoga poses and things. I'm not so familiar with all the other meditation programs, but they're getting really good results in what we're doing. So the study that just finished was a study with Kansas State University on PTSD, and the main part of that study was, could we get the vets that were returning home from combat, could we get them sleeping? Because they're not sleeping. Right. So our pilot study, we were able to have 100% success of the 16 people that were part of the pilot study. So then they went on and did the further study, which we're still waiting for the final results on that. But the sleep part of the study was 100% success. They were able to sleep through the night. And the main reason for that is that we need to turn off that beta brain. If you don't turn off the beta brain, they won't enter into that deep level sleep and get the rest and recharge they need.
Yeah, we've known that from other research, and so if you can find a way to stimulate that you're right, that'll work. And by the way, you say you think it's funny to go to India, but if you ask me about meditation and yoga, I think of India. So if you're going to take a research place to study it against meditation and yoga, hey, we're a better place to do that. So congratulations on that movement. That's really kind of great. So say a little bit more about how a dentist, your dentists are using this in their practices, just a little bit more. So the patient comes in and the dentist interviews them a little bit, and they find out that they're kind of nervous about their dental work, and so they put them through.
Right. That's one of the ways. But in the dental sleep area, if somebody's not sleeping well, then we can help them in that area as well. So some of the dentists will actually rent the equipment out to them, let them take it home, use it for a week or two, and usually that ends up being a purchase because the person likes it. They don't want to give it back, and they want to use it. But it's one of those things. It's like they have to experience it. So there are dentists that have in their waiting room a relaxing chair, like the chairs I was showing that are on the screen there, and they would do it. Most of them don't use the zero gravity chairs like that because those are just $40, cheap chairs. But there are some nicer chairs they'll put in their waiting room. Like some even have vibration to them, and they'll relax back and they'll do the sessions and they'll just calm them down and relax them. And we also have some people that will do it while they're doing procedures. They'll be wearing the BrainTap at the same time they're doing the procedure.
So it's kind of like the people that try and do that with like a movie or something like this, only this one is a little more brain specific.
Yeah. Well, what happens with the BrainTap is you're going to take them out of their pain threshold, and they're going to be in more of a relaxed state. And the more relaxed, anybody I'm sure that's done any kind of anesthetic knows, if you're relaxed, you don't have to use as much painkiller. So their healing is going to be faster. Their recovery time is going to be better.
So it's better than just the distraction that a movie might be or something like that. Right. Okay, a little more scientific about that. I get that. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah. Can you use you mentioned the technology that people can use online a little bit, but they don't have the light feature. So is there a way to use this technology without the headset, or is it just always?
Oh yeah. That? If they link in to get the free book, or get with Lynn, he can get them a link where they can have free access to our app. They're still going to get all the vibrational part of it. They're going to get the only thing they're going to be missing is the light, which does add about 10 to 15% improvement, but we still get phenomenal results. We're in over 140 countries, and most of those countries we can't ship the headset into because just the rules of tariffs and duties and all of that. So they have to do it just by downloading and using their own earphones.
Oh, I see.
You have to have earphones though to really get the result.
Okay, because that's the sound part of it. But at least they got to get a glimpse of it, straight away. I mean, so within a few minutes of this call or this webinar, they could be trying it out. Yeah, cool. All right.
Yeah.
So
if anybody's out there having trouble sleeping. Yeah.
So you mentioned that you have offices or clinics in nearly every major city in the United States. So somebody would go on your website to find those links?
Yes, there's a link that says find, if they're not on there because we're just transferring over our website, again, Lynn can help, we can help direct them to the different cities that have the people. I mean, we have quite a few people that aren't listed on there yet just because we're in the middle of transferring over to braintaptech.com from our old site.
You know, websites are always under construction, like airports. You know, there's never a finish to that. All right,
Yeah.
and especially when you're working on cutting edge
Yeah.
technology that you're always learning something new about. It's, you know, getting the word out is going to be something that's I think going to be a reason to go to that website quite a bit. Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. Well, I wanted to thank you, Dr. Porter. Is there anything else you'd like to finish up with? We're about out of time here, and so I wanted to give you a chance to say anything else that's come to mind.
Well, I think the main thing is just it's probably something new for most people, but it's free for the trial. Just download it, try it for yourself. It's one of those things that until you try it for yourself, you really can't understand it, you know. So I think it's great that Lynn set it up so they could have free time on it and get access to it. And then when they have some questions, just get a hold of Lynn and we'll help you out.
That's fantastic. Well, I really appreciate your very informative webinar tonight. I think that certainly gives us a lot more things to think about than just, you know, laying down and trying to calm our own selves to sleep. Maybe we can find some ways to use technology to get more efficient about that. And that just makes everybody feel better when they not only get a better night's sleep, but they also know that they're doing something really active to make themselves better. And that brain, you know, it's part of taking good care of yourself, and I see this as a way to do that too. So that's a really cool idea. So thank you for your time tonight.
Okay,
So
thank you, Dr. Steve.
you bet. So thank you on behalf of BrainTap Technology and Lynn Curtisai for hosting this with Dental Sleep Practice and MedMark Media. I hope all of you have a good evening. So good night.
Good night.